my experience is that at the base level is pure intelligence, you know, and I think what we are creating in our lives, what is happening at the moment with this virus, is basically what we are creating, what we have created, not just on the physical level by, you know, consuming alien species, animals, which have nothing to do with us. It's not part of our food chain, and unwittingly creating incompatibility which is totally to our detriment and causes this horrendous virus to which we have no against which we have no defense. On a wider level, of course, all life is connected. There are mankind doesn't just exist out of a lot of individual souls. There are two parts to us. One is a collective. Our collective is like just one huge human being. That is our collective human consciousness. And on the other side is the individual human consciousness, which is us as separate individual beings. But these two human aspects to us, our collective and our individual aspect, they're in synchronicity. They're working together like a big organism. I mean, you can sometimes observe this in nature when you watch a flock of swallows. They're making their beautiful pattern in the sky, or a school of fish. You know, they all work in harmony. Nobody's telling them what to do. Nobody says, oh, we all turn right at the same time. It's just they are guided by one consciousness. They're in collective. Human beings are just the same. We are a collective. And not only that, we are also a collective of the whole planet. You know, because at the core of everything is an intelligence. And this intelligence is in contact with every aspect of its creation. And so there's a feedback mechanism, you know, and of course nothing happens in isolation. So what we have done to our environment, totally ignored that we are responsible for our environment. All we were focused on is to be self-gratification. That's all we are interested in, self-gratification at the cost of almost anything. And the interesting thing is that what we're experiencing now is what we experienced before was selfishness, and what this epidemic, this pandemic, is giving us the opportunity to show compassion, you know, to care. And this is really interesting what's happening. People all over the world, they're doing the same thing. Not only do they steal the toilet paper from each other, but they're also clapping. You know, that's sort of caught on. They're sort of appreciating that there are other people in the world who actually care for us if we become ill, to the point of self-sacrifice. You know, now this is a development in our consciousness which was long overdue, which we needed to experience. You know, so I think people praying to be, you know, to save us from the illness. What we should be praying for, we should be praying for learning this important lesson which will carry us forward. We should pray for the fact that we don't need to fly all over the world and create an incredible burden on the environment with our pollution. You know, that we don't need to drive so many cars, that we don't need to go on cruise ships, which are the biggest polluters in the world. And what we'll properly find when this whole pandemic is over, we have probably a couple of million more lives who would have otherwise died as a result of sulfur dioxide, of the pollution, which is actually a fact, but we are not aware of it. So what is happening, the pandemic is scaring us into becoming aware of what we are doing. And over the next few months or years, we will suddenly become more aware of the impact we have on the environment, on the world. We become more aware that we are a collective, that we are a species who have to work together, not just that we cannot willy-nilly sort of do whatever we like without consequences. And that is why I felt the virus is not some evil that has been sent to us, but is a natural consequence of our unwillingness to take responsibility for what we are doing and take responsibility for what we are creating. So that's the thing which I would pray for, that we are learning from this. And if it takes longer, and I know how horrifying it is, because there are a lot of people who are actually dying. There are a lot of families who have been ripped apart. It has got horrendous consequences for a lot of people's life. We can't imagine it. We can only imagine it when we suddenly find, oh, there's my father or my son or my daughter who is now in hospital and who may die. Then it becomes home. That is horrendous. It's horrible. But if we see the whole thing in terms of as a collective, the other part of our humanness, which is a collective to the individual aspect, then we can see a completely different picture of it. And that's how we need to start understanding ourselves, not just as individuals who are out for each other, out for themselves at the cost of other people, at the cost of life, at the cost of the environment. No, we have to accept that we are also, the other part of our humanity is a collective. And this is like, it's like a school of fish or a swarm of birds or a nest of insects. We are no different. We are just a little bit more intelligent. We have got a higher intelligence.